And call the Becker City Council meeting of March 16th, 2021 to order. If you'll rise if you're able, remove your hats for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Has council had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes from March 2nd? If so, how do you wish to proceed?
Motion to approve the minutes from March 2nd as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, carried. Any changes to this evening's agenda? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the set agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the set agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion from Robin, second from Mike. All of those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Carried. Guest and open forum. Anyone wish to address the council in regards to the guest and open forum section? Seeing no one, we'll move on to committee reports. Police Management Committee.
Police management, we met a couple Fridays ago. First thing we talked about was the new part-time hires. And that kind of led into a bigger discussion just about hiring in general. I want to say when I first came on council, when we would put applications out, we would get sometimes over 100 applications. This last time we got 8. So it's and it's not something that is at all unique to the city of Becker. That is nationwide, basically. It's kind of a sign of the direction of, you would say, the results of the civil events over the past few years and what that does to hiring and say folks that want to, when kids graduate from high school and that go into say Alex Tech or some of the police programs like that. And so when you see those numbers go down, and now when you see this is kind of the end result of that. And so it kind of led into our discussion as far as possibly bringing on another full-time position next year as opposed to going with the part-time positions. Not that it would necessarily be an increase in hours, but just that when you're a small city like we are, it's like being a small business. The bigger businesses can pay more, offer better benefits, things like that, and it's think of a small city in the same way. And so so we had some discussion about that. Obviously that will come up, potentially come up later this year when we talk budgets, things like that. But just kind of getting on everybody's radar now that's under discussion there to possibly replace there. Stats were down a little bit, still coming into the first quarter here with, due to COVID, that is expected to change as everybody kind of moves back out now. It's expected to I hate to say resume normal, but to get closer to levels pre-COVID. Final thing we talked about was that some of the potential changes to the Chapter 8 ordinances, which have to do with like recreational vehicles, four-wheelers, side-by-sides, golf carts, things like that. It was at the end of the meeting. We didn't have a lot of discussion, so we'll have some more discussion on that yet. But we had some, at least started the discussion on that. Good.
Public Works. Would you like me to take it or?
Yeah, Public Works, we went over the plans for seal coating the streets, Liberty Lane, Hancock, the city trails along Sherburne Avenue, Brenda, Joseph, 27th, Central Avenue. All of these are budgeted items. We also discussed if you want to make any changes on First Street, on the east end of First Street by Deli Plus. We gave Phil some direction of some things to look into, and we'll come back at the report on that. And plow truck, did I see the new plow truck today? No? Okay. It's on it. It should be coming quick. And Chris is going to have a presentation on the manhole improvements. Pretty much it.
Okay. Park and Rec.
Park and Rec, we had a kind of a different meeting last night. We had a presentation rather than a regular meeting. And that's on our executive session. The presentation is on splash pad. And just some scenarios for doing a splash pad. And so we'll be discussing that later.
All right. Joint fire.
Okay, so as you can see on your screen, the truck is finally here, guys. Do you want to flick through it?
Sure can.
Thanks. So yes, there it is. She's a beaut. There should be another picture with the new hydraulic. Those are the battery powered ones versus, sorry, they used to be hydraulic.
Yes.
These are now battery powered and they are super heavy because I tried to lift one yesterday. So those are the new tools. So just thought we'd just show those pictures for you guys. What else? We took a donation from the Hildebrandt family, and there's going to be a live house burn on April 3rd. Do you remember where that was?
I don't.
I don't either. They were all talking about who they knew who it was, but I'm like, eh. So if you guys see like a major house fire, it's controlled on April 3rd, which they did invite Clear Lake and Big Lake too to help them out with that. So that's about it on the fire board.
Yeah, it's a training opportunity for
Yes.
for them. Yes. All right, any other committee reports? None. We'll move on to board, committee, and consultant reports. To the Industrial Collection System Manhole Rehabilitation Project with Chris Lisson.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Hopefully I didn't mess up their pictures there. So before you tonight, I have an RCA and a resolution number 2115 for industrial collection system manhole relining. So this is our third year in a row now. We've been kind of slowly progressing down our industrial line to the wastewater facility. This year we are doing 8 manholes versus 7, simply because that'll take us up to the 2 manholes that were previously had liners inserted in those. Why it just seemed like a good place to stop at the time. So to kind of give you an idea where those manholes are located, so the first one would be in the Country Lumber parking lot, and then it would be up Riley to about the area of Balsam Boulevard. So that helps you kind of see where we are. And I included a little map from our map book in there also. These 8 manholes were last refurbished in 2010. It was a Quadex lining, which is what the other manholes have had in them, cement-based. It's showing signs of significant deterioration. It's lived a pretty rough life, a lot of heat and hydrogen sulfide and good stuff coming down the way, especially prior to Liberty Paper having their pretreatment plant there. So we went out and got 2 different quotes for the relining project, same 2 that we had last year. One is Innovative and one is Hyperline, which they used to be called Orange Painting, so they've rebranded and are no longer doing commercial painting. They're only doing the manhole and wastewater facility lining with Spectre Shield. So I can see the 2 quotes. They do vary a little bit in pricing. Hyperline is a higher quote of $83,995. If you remember, they have the 3-layer system, so they have the first layer that goes on is leak stopping, so to prevent the I&I water coming into the manhole, groundwater penetration. Second layer is a structural foam layer, so they can kind of rebuild the manhole, make the sides kind of even and nice, so it gives some support to that manhole structure. And then the last layer is the corrosion inhibiting layer, so kind of keeping everything that is inside that manhole from penetrating into the structure of the manhole and deteriorating it. The Zebron, the Innovative product, is a single layer system. Their quote was $39,328. I did question their salesman a couple of different times because his quote is less this year than it was last year, and we're doing more vertical feet of lining this year than we were. But he seemed to think it was right on. That was the number he was looking at. So again, this year I would be recommending going with Hyperline and the Spectre Shield, despite the cost difference. I really feel like it is the best system for that application for those industrial manholes because of the life they lived. It does provide, the finished product is a minimum of 500 mils versus a Zebron, which is just 125 mils, so ½ inch versus an 1/8 of an inch. So it does have the structural foam. So I feel like short of doing the full, adding the liner in, so basically tearing up the street, taking the top off, putting a liner in, putting the top back on, this system is probably the best thing we can do to maintain the integrity of those manholes, hopefully long beyond my time with the city, so. If there's any questions, I can answer those. Otherwise, a motion and a second to approve the industrial manhole system relining refurbishment project for 2021 would be appreciated.
I have a question.
Yes.
Does this, how does this work, coincide with the large, water project that we're gonna be looking at here with going through like Country Lumber and, adding up to the wastewater plant? I guess are these fine? Cause this is, I'm assuming, gonna be done sooner.
Yes, this will be, I mean, this can basically be done whenever it fits into their schedule. We were looking kind of in May when they were gonna have the original 7 to 10 day shutdown for the machine rehab. But they can work with flow going through the manhole, so that's not an issue. So if it's approved, we'll have them put us in the calendar and they can do it as soon as they possibly can and get it done for the year.
But I mean, with the big project, it's the fact, we'd be tearing up, parts of stuff that's.
Yeah,
not gonna
this is
matter.
all interior to that, so if we tear up the street and do those kind of things, the manholes would still stay in place. Yep, so that wouldn't affect that.
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution 2115, relining project for the manholes.
I'll second that.
Motion from Mike, second from Rick. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you.
2021 Trail Life Extension Project with seal coating. Mr. Lisson.
Thank you again. So I have another RCA and a resolution 2116. So it's our 2021 Trail Life Extension Project. So the city has approximately 7 miles of paved trails. That's part of our park system. We want to try to get the full life out of those paved trails. So the program we've been working on putting in place is kind of doing some more of those preventative maintenance processes through the life of the trail. So there's kind of two theories. You can put the trail down, let it live for about 20 years, then you're going to pick it up and replace it. Or we can try to do some of these crack filling, seal coating, some of these projects to get 30 to 35 years of life out of that surface. So let's see. Yep. We did set aside money in the CIP for our trail life extension projects. There's $25,000 set aside this year. So kind of standard practice would be to crack fill every 3 to 5 years in your trails, similar to streets, and then seal coat 4 to 6 years. So kind of crack fill and then seal coat following that. So fill in the cracks, prevent the moisture from getting in the ground, then seal the whole thing and help preserve that surface. Staff were out actually the last 2 years and seal coating on the trails that we are proposing to seal coat now, or crack fill in the trails we're proposing to seal coat this year. This project would cover about 2 of those paved miles on our city trails. Staff did receive 1 quote from Farner Asphalt Sealers. We did not get multiple quotes on this one. We did get multiple quotes last year when we did the Edgewood project. Farner was the cheapest of the quotes that we got, and they did a very good job on Edgewood Street. They were very timely. They lived up to what they promised, and we've seen the product so far has held up quite well. So we're going to suggest going with them again this year. Their quote for these trails was $18,334.80, and so we're recommending going with them this year. We did talk about this project at Public Works, and Public Works Committee approved it to move forward to council. If there are any questions regarding that, I will answer those. Otherwise, a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2116 would be appreciated.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2116.
I'll second it.
Motion from Robin, second from Mike. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Supplemental letter agreement with SEH for engineering services for the 2021 Sherburne Avenue bituminous street improvements. Mr. Knutson.
I like to keep those descriptions nice and short for you,
Oh,
so
thanks.
apologize for that. In front of you tonight, we do have an SLA proposal from SEH regarding the street improvements out there. It was kind of a late addition after we talked about the bonding and then trying to kind of crunch that timeline up and bring them all together. So with that, we did reach out specifically for this project. Again, it would be Sherburne Avenue South from Liberty Lane all the way out to County Road 11. Along that as well, staff met with SEH to go over a couple of questionable points. One being the ditch slopes in a few areas where the drainage isn't what we would like to see. A couple of old road encroachments that are draining onto the roadway, bringing debris, sand and debris onto the road. So we're looking to get those eliminated. And then also along Vonco, we're doing some looking into accident history out there. There's been questions a few years back as well. Staff reached out to look at it to do turn lanes or bypass lanes there. From a safety standpoint, the bonding dollars would allow for that if we chose to go that way. What we've asked for in the SLA was to do some specific topo work in that area, just to take a look at what we've got. Do we have the appropriate easements and right-of-way out there, and what that would look like? So if we did move forward with any of those, we would call those out as alternate bids. We wouldn't include that in the bulk of the project, so we can specify the cost with that and look for any potential cost sharing from some of the businesses in that area. But that would come to council if you would choose to go that way. So right now, to get the ball rolling, we would like to do the engineering work to have it queued up. We don't want to get the cart in front of the horse, so we know if the bonding does not go through, this topo work may sit on the survey work may sit on the shelf for a year or so. It still will be pertinent and be used, but if we can get in front of it right now and things line up the way we anticipate they could, we'll be in a good position to go for bid and keep this project moving. So with that, I'll entertain any questions.
Yeah, I do have a question. You're talking about turn lanes by like Vite or and wherever else. Isn't it the standard practice for those companies to have to put those turn lanes in?
Vonco does have one turn lane that the power poles are a little bit questionable as far as the width of those turn lanes. There is one turn lane in there. What we were looking at is to make sure the length of that turn lane is okay, and the bypass lane if you're heading south on Sherburne. If that would be appropriate to put a bypass lane there as well.
Yeah, but
And yes, to your point, once we have those dollars, pending council approval, we would seek to engage that conversation with Vonco.
because I mean, I know of other businesses that have had to pay for that.
Yes. Yeah, we wouldn't go out and talk about that without your permission to do so, but our intention would be to ask for cost sharing from the specified business being Vonco.
Have they asked about turn lanes and that kind of stuff before?
A few years ago, I believe it was 2014, it's kind of before both of us, but I believe I've got some information on 2014 or 2015, they asked about that. So we did have a quick discussion to see if that was something they're still interested in or concerned about, and they responded very quickly with that and said, yes, they are. I stopped short of asking them if they'd opened the checkbook for it, but again, that would be the intention to do that, but I'd like to have some specific numbers as to what that's going to be. And again, we want to view it from a public safety standpoint. For the trucks getting off that road, at a minimum, they want to make sure that we're keeping the speed on that curve down like it is right now. I believe it's posted at 40 miles an hour right now. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but what I was referring to is I know of companies where they were required to do it.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know that
They have to do it, they had to pay for it.
Yeah, I don't know if they're required or not. In this situation, I know they do have a turn lane for one of their access points, but we're looking to address the whole corridor because they've increased their access points. They put one further north of their original one. So that's what we're going to look at, and then we would come back and take a look at that. Again, if the dollars are there and we can have that, we would go ask for their participation with that. But I don't know what the requirement is because they were there and then added on to it, so I don't know that, but this study will help us get those answers.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2118 supplemental letter with SEH.
I'll second.
Motion from Rick, second from Becky. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Administrator and staff reports. Replacement of the fire control panel and HVAC improvements at City Hall. Mr. Knutson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a little bit unique in the fact that a couple of these items that we're looking to improve or replace really don't have a home at a committee level. Typically, since this is an operational expenditure, we would talk about it at committee, get approval, and move forward because you've already approved our budgets to do this. While these were a little bit unexpected, we do believe that we can cover this within our operating budget for City Hall. One of them, the fire panel, which was new in 1996. Has had a couple of false alarms. We can't get it to quiet down. The panel is stuck. It will not reset.
Could have a Y2K bug.
Yeah. So, looking to replace that, we did have brothers who's run the facility for us here. They do work for us in our other buildings as well. They come out, took a look at that, and also recommended that we should replace the smoke detectors themselves, as well as typically they're a 10 to 15-year lifespan. So that's original equipment as well. So I think we've got our money out of that. We did get a quote for that. I believe it was $6,400 or something that we have for it. Yeah, $6,440.56 to do that work, as well as a McDowell company looking to improve some HVAC within the building here. Two things that have happened. Our server room is kind of the electrical room as well. It generates a decent amount of heat, and as we've added to the system, the heat's not going down, and it's not been ventilated very well in that room. So they would quote to do a couple of different duct runs, return air runs, and vent the door a little bit to circulate that air a little bit better year-round to make sure that we condition it better to prolong the life of the servers. As well as that our IT staff member is working from a enlarged closet, so to speak, and there is no ventilation or air movement within that office. So with this project, we would condition that room both seasonal. Heating-wise, it's not too bad. It's getting too hot in there. He can't have a private conversation and close the door because it gets overwhelming heat-wise. So this work would also cover that as well. So like I said, because it doesn't really have a home in any committee level, wanted to get it to you guys so you know what we're looking to do and make sure that you're comfortable with the spending that we're putting in place. So, and for you guys to ask any questions of the projects.
So the fire, they're all the wiring and all that, they're all good, that's all, I'm assuming that's why it's so cheap, because it's basically just.
Yep, all the wire pulls are fine, all the positioning is fine, the distancing is fine, it's just the panel itself and then the detectors themselves that are gonna be pulled out, using the existing wire and replaced. In the interest of full disclosure, we do have a tentative date scheduled on that because our system is down right now, so we wanted to just get it on the calendar. I believe it's the end of this week that they can slot in, or the first part of next week. We held them knowing that we needed approval tonight, but we did get it on the calendar.
Yep, I'd say go ahead. Need a motion?
Yes, I do.
I'll make a motion to replace fire control panel and do some HVAC improvements in the electrical room.
I'll second.
Motion from Mike, second from Robin to approve the quotes from Brothers Fire and Security as well as McDowell Company. Those in favor can state aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thanks. Pebble Creek's pond lining near hole 14 with Mr. Scharfenkamp.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. As you may have seen, as we opened the course this last weekend, we do have the liner from Northern Metals that was donated last fall. And that liner is integral to the next step of our pond restoration process for the property. In order to install that, we need to get to clean soil, and that's where the RCA in front of us is about excavating that material out in order to set that liner onto the clean base material and make sure the liner takes hold properly. I did reach out to 3 different excavation companies. Only 2 of them returned actual quotes. The third one returned one over the phone, with JC Landscapes being the lowest bid, and then he had also followed up with an email after that recommending going with time and material bid rather than actually doing the full project quote. That he recommended would save us potentially another $4,000 to $5,000, putting us with the ability to make any repairs or anything that we need to on that liner from any transportation damage that that happened as we took ownership of that liner. The project has been discussed with Golf Committee, and the budget, it should not exceed $10,000 from capital improvements, and that was previously approved from the 2020 capital improvement for pond restoration.
So the quote you got with the phone and email is the lowest one? Is that the one that you're recommending?
A phone and email.
Yeah,
So it would be the JC Lawn and Landscape.
So they gave a hard quote, which I'm assuming would be worst case scenario, kind of a do not exceed, but then they said there's a pretty good chance that you may not have to dig out as much, and so with that being
Right.
the case, they recommended the hourly,
Right,
which
as we
could.
probed the material, we took multiple probes as we were going throughout the pond. And where that land bridge is between the large pond right there and the smaller one, that's almost pure sand. And then as you go further back, it gets to heavier material where it's a lot more organic material, as well as like sandy loam rather than the pure sand as it is on the north part.
yeah, when it was built, all they did was, with the excavator, they formed it. They just used the material that was there and formed it because it kinda had its own semi-natural seal, but it wasn't a very good seal.
Yep, and the ultimate goal with doing this will take an extreme amount of load off of our pump that fills those 2 ponds, that will be able to keep those full and restore the Pebble Creek water feature running all the way from the pond that will receive this liner, which will then run into the one that was worked on last fall, and then run down to hole number 2 down by the pump house down there.
Any other questions for Jason? If not, how will council like to proceed?
I'll make a motion to authorize the staff to contract JC Landscapes for the pond liner project.
I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Becky. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Consent agenda. Mr. Prusinski.
Mayor, City Council, good evening. Thank you. We have a revised consent agenda this evening. Item number 1, which includes the revisions, is a hiring and termination report for Becker PD and Pebble Creek Golf Course. Item number 2, donation acceptance. That's resolution 21-17, and that's from the Becker Lions, and remember that's for improvements at Snuffy's Landing. Item number 3, suspension of rules, kind of sounding like a broken record here, but resolution 21-14, something we've seen before. Probably most notably, signage and using parking lots for restaurants, et cetera. Item number 4, our annual Safe Assure contract renewal. Remember, that's for our OSHA required training. And then item number 5 is our insurance renewal. Remember, that's annual. Love to talk about that all night long, but I won't, but I will make a couple of comments about it. First comment, as you can see from the premium summary, we renew on the 23rd of February, but we do bind coverage, so there was no gap in the coverage. I want to make sure everybody knows that. Item number 2, it did take a tick up. Probably the 2 main reasons that I would point to. Number 1, there is a slight rate increase. There was also a realignment of the inflation factor. So they do an inflation, they inflate it every year. So those are the 2 probably most noteworthy. And then the last thing that I'll mention on the modifier, we are below 1. Remember, the modifier 1 is average. Anything above that, you're getting charged additional. We're below that 1 figure. So I just wanted to point that out. If you have any questions, I can certainly try to answer those. Otherwise, I would appreciate a motion to move the consent agenda forward.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion from Rick, second from Robin. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Payment of the bills.
I will make a motion to pay the bills.
I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Becky. Any discussion on them? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Does council have anything else for the betterment of Becker? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
One second.
Motion from Mike, second from Robin. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 5:32 p.m.